Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Israel rolled out the red carpet to welcome the Vice President of the United States. An IDF honor guard greeted Mike and Karen Pence as they arrived in the Holy Land for their historic visit. The Vice President told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that it was a great honor to be in Israel's capital, Jerusalem. Speaking later to the Israeli Knesset, Pence announced that the United States would move the American embassy to Jerusalem at the end of next year. His speech earned several standing ovations from lawmakers. However, Arab members of the Knesset chose to disrupt the vice president's address with protest. In addition, the Palestinian Authority declared a general strike while the vice president was in the country, and the Fatah party of PA leader Mahmoud Abbas urged Arabs to organize a popular resistance in response to Washington's declaration that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Palestinian officials also refused to meet with the vice president as part of their freeze in diplomatic relations with the U.S.
The European Union has pledged to support the bid from Mahmoud Abbas for Palestinian statehood. Federica Mogherini assured the PA leader that the EU is committed to establishing a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital. Abbas addressed members of the body on the sidelines of the EU's monthly meeting last week. He said that he is unwilling to accept America's role in negotiations with Israel and asked the EU to help create an alternative to the U.S.-led peace process. The PA has snubbed U.S. officials and declared that the U.S. will no longer mediate negotiations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there is no alternative to the U.S. as a peace broker and that whoever is not willing to meet with America about peace does not want peace.
German security forces conducted a manhunt for a group of Iranian spies they believed were planning a terror attack on Jews in the country. Focus magazine reported that the home of a top Iranian agent had been under surveillance for several months and was raided by police last week. German authorities confirmed that they were searching for 10 members of an elite Iranian military unit which had been gathering intel on the Israeli embassy in Berlin and other targets, including Jewish kindergartens.
Members of an Arab family living in the Gazan city of Rafah have executed their own son for working with Israel. The Hamas terror group accused the man of collaborating with the Jews, and the family responded by killing him. The deceased is from a family with close ties to terror groups in Gaza, and he'd been accused of helping Israel during the 2014 war with Hamas. Since taking over Gaza in a bloody coup, Hamas has sentenced more than 100 people to death and executed 25 Arabs, mostly for the crime of spying for or working with Israel.
Jerusalem will name a new envoy to Jordan. Several months ago, Israel was forced to recall its ambassador and diplomatic staff after a security incident at the Israeli embassy in Amman. An Israeli security officer killed 2 Jordanians in July of last year after he was stabbed while guarding the embassy. The ensuing diplomatic crisis forced Israel to recall its ambassador and caused a tense standoff between the Jewish state and the Hashemite kingdom. Senior members of the Trump administration succeeded in repairing the strained ties between the two Mideast neighbors, and last week it was announced that Israel will appoint a new ambassador to the Jordanian capital.
Israeli security forces discovered a cell phone bomb and several weapons in Joseph's tomb. Located in the biblical city of Shechem, the holy site is usually forbidden to Jewish worshippers wishing to pray at the patriarch's gravesite because it's located in an area controlled by the Palestinian Authority. However, the IDF does coordinate special visitation to the site. Recently, 1,000 Jews were escorted to Nablus, and after the area was cleared by the IDF, they were allowed to pray at Joseph's tomb. The holy site has repeatedly been raided, pillaged, and even burned by the Arabs, and many Jews are demanding that it be returned to Israeli control to ensure its preservation.
Israeli officials expressed their frustration after the European Union refused to condemn Mahmoud Abbas's latest racist tirade against Israel. The EU, which itself never hesitates to condemn the Jewish state, conveniently had no comment after the PA boss accused Europe of sending Jews to Israel as an experiment, and he demanded an apology for the Balfour Declaration. Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister, Tzipi Hotovely, called on the EU to denounce Abbas for claiming Israel is a European colonialist project. Hotovely told the EU's ambassador to Israel that the European Union must act fairly towards Israel regarding Europe's activities in the region, and they need to understand that the Palestinians are the ones who perpetuate the conflict.
The Israeli Ministry of Diaspora Affairs is reporting a spike in anti-Semitic incidents in Western Europe. The ministry released its report on global anti-Semitism, which reveals a disturbing number of racist events against Jews in 2017. The report reflects that there were a record number of anti-Semitic episodes in many European nations last year. There was a dramatic surge of anti-Jewish attacks in England, which had a 30% increase in anti-Semitism and a 78% increase of physical violence against Jews. The report noted the threat posed by the new anti-Semitism, which is presented as anti-Zionism. This growing trend is being combated in the United States by the Israel Allies Foundation and state legislators who are passing anti-BDS laws, making it illegal to work with organizations that boycott the Jewish state. A German court has ruled that the torching of a Jewish synagogue was a justified expression of criticism against Israel. A German regional court has ruled that 3 Arabs who firebombed the Jewish synagogue in Wuppertal in 2014 were not motivated by anti-Semitism, but rather out of a desire to call attention to the war with Gaza. This particular synagogue has been defaced with anti-Israel and anti-Semitic graffiti and was severely damaged in the arson attack. Germany is becoming increasingly split over the resurgence of anti-Semitism throughout the country. Several members of the government have spoken out against the blatant anti-Jewish and anti-Israel sentiment that is being allowed to resurface in the same country that perpetrated the murder of millions of Jews during the Holocaust.
The Israeli Air Force has proudly promoted a woman to command an aviation squadron. The major, whose name cannot be revealed for security reasons, is not the first woman to be appointed to such a senior role in the Air Force, but this is the first time a female has been given command of an entire squadron. Women are rising in the ranks of the Israeli Air Force at an impressive rate. In November, the IAF appointed a woman as deputy commander of the Air Force's Spearhead Squadron, which flies F-15 fighter jets. And 2 women were recently appointed as deputy commanders of drone squadrons.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Yifa Siegel. She's the director of the International Legal Forum. Yifa, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell our viewers a little about what is the International Legal Forum.
Well, we've established the organization as a hub for lawyers and organizations working around the world. You see a lot of activity. There has been an awakening, let's say, in the last few years, and people want to be very active, opposing terrorism, opposing BDS, promoting human rights from this side of the political spectrum, and we're trying to facilitate that, giving legal advice, our legal expertise. We have a network of lawyers all around the world, and we're working on various parliaments, working on litigation, working on different, positions concerning those issues all over the world.
So what are some of the legal cases that you're taking on? What are the main focus of the organizations?
Well, as I said, we're focusing a lot on the issue of terrorism on one side and the issue of BDS on the other side. So you see a lot of problems with funding of terrorism, a lot of supposed charitable organizations and foundations are promoting terrorism, forwarding funds to terrorist organizations. This has to stop. So we're working around the world to expose that and kind of shut them down. And on the other hand, there is legislation concerning terrorism that needs to, there are a lot of work to be done. Recently, there was an event in the European Parliament, for example, where they hosted a terrorist, known senior terrorist of the PFLP, Leila Khaled. And so we got together with European lawyers and parliamentarians to kind of emphasize the fact that this is a violation of European law, and there was a unanimous decision in the Parliament not to allow such a thing to happen again. So you see, this is something that we think should be obvious, but yet there are places around the world, even in the European Parliament, where they don't put the 2 and 2 together, and this is where we come in. We show the European law, we show international law, and then we try to push for a better policy.
And tell our viewers a little about what is BDS. We're seeing increasingly becoming illegal. There are state legislations in America.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers a little about that.
Well, BDS, well, you can look back at what, the original movement was. You can see that the Arab boycott of Israel, which started even before the establishment of the State of Israel, they were very clear about what they want to do. They said out loud, we want to annihilate the Jewish state. This is a financial boycott. We don't recognize Israel. In the 2000s, there was a new attempt to do more or less the same thing, but for, let's say, a smarter reason, where they're actually covering the true reason, which is the annihilation of Israel, and trying to say that it's a human rights issue and this is a movement for people that support Palestinian rights. But we know very well that the true motive is really going back from anti-Semitism to anti-Israel or anything like that. And when you look at it from a legal perspective, then you see the discrimination that is involved in that, and the hatred and the hate speech and the violence and everything that comes out of this BDS movement. And there are numerous attempts to try to stop it from various angles. One of it, as you mentioned, is the state laws in various states in the United States. There is now attempts to legislate federal laws. You can see in Europe that there are different types of attempts, focusing more on issues of discrimination, of hate speech. The legal arena is is key in fighting back against this hateful movement, and you can definitely see a positive shift in the process.
Well, we see in America that in the States, as you mentioned, there are a lot of legal initiatives to try to stop this, also at the federal level. Yet at the UN and in the EU, we seem to be embracing part of the BDS movement. Why the dichotomy in how things are being seen by Europe in the UN and America on the other side?
I think the other, voices like you see in America, a lot of Jewish organizations, a lot of pro-Israeli organizations, a lot of organizations that are active for many years trying to get the truth out, trying to balance the political power, did not really play the same role in the European Union at all. I mean, it's very far from that. And I think this is why there's a huge gap between, our abilities to advance our messaging in the EU than it is in the United States. And it's not a process that started today. I mean, we're celebrating now with the new government how it has become more clear, and in the United States policy from the president going down, it's very clear, but it hasn't started today. It's a process. So it's definitely a process that needs to be done in the EU. And I think we as a general, a lot of people are working on this, has started to work in the EU, and you see progress. I mean, it's very slow. It's not going to happen tomorrow. I mean, it's not like you can think that you can flip things 180 degrees within a day, but it's definitely, I think, going in the right direction, and hopefully we'll see the results.
Yeah, there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, I believe in the power of people. I think that we are able to do what we do because we have a lot of people around the world that are in contact with us. A lot of lawyers, a lot of organizations, a lot of people that care and have access to information or can assist us in one way or another, even in a small way. And so I do offer people the opportunity to contact us with anything, any ideas, any way that they can help. And this is how we become powerful. The network is growing, and the chain of hands around the world. And so please join us, and we'll become better.
Yifa, thank you for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. This week, we will learn about the righteous among the Gentiles. Throughout Israel's modern history, many Christians have risked their lives and the lives of their families to defend the Jewish people and God's covenant with Israel.
As the Nazis ruthlessly set about their demonic plan to eradicate the Jewish people, Europe became an accomplice to humanity's darkest hour. While the Nazi gas chambers and killing fields extinguished the lives of 6 million Jews, Europeans overwhelmingly turned a blind eye to the horror unfolding, or worse, became accessories to genocide. God's compassion appeared to have abandoned Europe, an entire continent devoid of humanity. Yet a handful of people refused to forget the Bible's teaching in Genesis 1:27. God created man in His own image. Unimaginably risking their own lives, these people demonstrated that even in Europe's sea of darkness, human kindness and mercy can shine through. Seeking nothing in return, these Christians jeopardized everything in order to save Jews from facing certain death. Often hiding entire Jewish families for months, sometimes years, they lived in constant fear of discovery and cruel retribution at the hands of the Nazis.
Et quand moi j'allais pleurer, si je puis dire, pour qu'on prenne les enfants, et quand je racontais ce qui s'y passait, qu'on arrachait les gens de leur maison, on lançait leurs vêtements par la cage d'escalier, on les emmenait par camion à Malines.
In appreciation of their remarkable deeds, these angels on earth have been honored by Israel as the righteous among the nations. Exactly how many Jewish lives were saved by these brave individuals, we don't know, but they joined the hundreds of thousands of Holocaust survivors that Keren HaYesod supporters helped extricate from Europe's inferno to reach Israel. They came from 51 countries, from all churches, from all walks of life, from remote farms, city slums, universities, high society, and beyond. They were bound by just one thing, the determination to preserve humanity in the face of all evil. Some of their stories are well known, the likes of Oskar Schindler and Raoul Wallenberg, but lesser-known heroes too, such as Adolf Althoff, Father Hubert Salis, and Leopold Socha, showed the same unimaginable courage. All carried a bright torch of humanity in a Europe enveloped by moral darkness. Avraham Savion was just 9 years old when the war broke out. At the age of 12, he was taken in by a Christian family who risked their lives and the lives of their children to save this one Jewish boy. When word got out that they were hiding a Jew, they arranged for Avraham to be taken in by a church where other Jewish boys were hiding out as well. There, they provided for his every need until he was reunited with his relatives.
ז'אן דלין, הוא היה נסיך בלגיה, והוא הציל ילדים ממוות בטוח. ואחרי שעברתי כמה מקומות הסתר, פגשתי אותו פעם ראשונה בכנסייה בתוך הטירה. הייתה כנסייה פרטית שלו, שהכומר החליט לקחת אותי ולשים אותו נער כנסייה, זאת אומרת. אני עוזר, הולך אחרי הכומר, מחזיק לו את הגלימה, מחזיק לו את הנר, או דברים כאלה. משרת אותו בזמן שהוא עורך את התפילה. חסידי אומות העולם הצילו אותנו. אלו והנזירות והמורות וכולם הצילה אותי במיוחד. הגעתי למקום מנוחה אחרי מרדפים שנרדפתי כל הזמן. הם החיו אותנו, נתנו לנו חיים חדשים.
The righteous among the nations helped fulfill the divine wish to restore the people of Israel to their land. The descendants of those saved today number in the millions, building their lives in the Jewish state with the help of Keren HaYesod. Today, 70 years after the Holocaust, too many Jews still remain in distress and danger in perilous corners of the globe. Now is our opportunity to continue the legacy of the righteous among the nations by assisting in the rescue of these Jews to make a new life in the land of their forefathers.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Israel is the only Western-style democracy and the only largely Caucasian state ever to airlift an entire African population out and bring it home. And not just to bring it home, but to welcome it home, to do its utmost to try to integrate that population and to make them an integral part of the state of Israel. This is the story of the Aliyah of Ethiopian Jews, a story that is heroic, epic, a story of great suffering, of Jews who kept their Jewishness throughout the centuries and then walked across hundreds of miles of desert, ferrying off predators, killers, marauders, in order to reach the land of their ancestors. Israel was able to airlift in two major airlifts, Operation Moses and Solomon, and to bring them home. And since then, Ethiopians here have faced many, many obstacles in integrating and becoming part of a 21st century high-tech society. It has not been easy for them. And the success, frankly, has been mixed. Today, there are Ethiopian Jews who still suffer depredations and still living in underprivileged neighborhoods, but those who have succeeded and are an essential part of our military system, our judicial system. In my own party here in Knesset, we have two members of the community who are proud and active parliamentarians here in the Knesset. So all of this we are very proud of, but we cannot rest on our laurels. We have to continue the story of integrating Ethiopian Jews and making them a fully equal citizens of Israel. In our relations with the world, and particularly with African Americans, our record in airlifting Ethiopian Jews is very important. It's very important that Americans and African Americans come to Israel and see that we are a racially, ethnically, and religiously diverse country that is welcoming and open in a way that perhaps no other state in the world has ever been.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Today, we remember. Today, we pause the daily routine of life and remember the past. A past encompassing the horrors of genocide. On January 27th, 1945, Auschwitz, the largest Nazi death camp, was liberated by the Red Army. Years later, the world stops to commemorate the victims of this tragedy. It's on this day that survivors, staff, and family gather at the ICEJ Haifa Home for Holocaust Survivors to honor the memory of lives lost.
שמי שרה זמיר, ואני גרה כבר 6 שנים וחצי בבית חם לניצולי שואה בחיפה, ישראל. נולדתי בגרמניה, ברחנו בגלל הרדיפות של היהודים לבלגיה. נאצים באו גם, כבשו את בלגיה, אבי ואמי הובלו למחנות ומתו שם, וגם אחי היחיד. ואני ניצלתי על ידי משפחה בלגית קתולית שלקחה אותי וטיפלה בי כאילו הבת האמיתית שלה. אני חושבת שהיום הזה חשוב במיוחד שאנשים שלא ידעו על כך מכל העולם ילמדו מזה שדבר לא יקרה לעולם.
Be a blessing. Support Holocaust survivors. Go to icej.org/Haifa.
Shalom, Chaya.
Yudi, you surprised me.
To see you.
I'm very, very happy to see you. Come on.
Chaya, I got a present for you. This is a very special blanket that came all the way from Canada, from Canadian friends who love you and want to make sure that you keep warm in the winter nights here.
Thank you very much for the present. I thank you, but I want to thank the people from Canada, what they thank for us, and they send us so good a present. This present is good for warm for the body, but more and more warm for the heart. Thank you, Judith. I thank you very, very much, and I thank you
love you.
from Canada too.
I want to thank all our ICEJ partners from around the world. You're the ones who make this most beautiful home possible. And if you're not involved yet and you want to be a blessing, go and visit icej.org/Haifa and you will be blessed.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.